My name's Jennifer Stokes. I'm a senior lecturer at the University of South Australia. I guess what drew me to the field of learning analytics was the possibility to learn more about our students and to be able to create more effective learning outcomes for them through being able to adjust to the cohort. So creating more personalised learning experiences, better understanding the students, and particularly taking things like enabling pedagogy and the dialogic approach and rebooting it with technology to get a better understanding of them. I'm using learning analytics in my teaching in a few different ways. So firstly, for student engagement. So I use things like learning analytics tools when I'm doing live lectures or online lectures for the students to engage with what I'm discussing and give me a sense of where they're at, what ideas are sticking, and I guess also to keep them connected. I've also been using learning analytics specifically in a course I teach, which is an information literacy course called Future Ideas, Information and the Internet. And what I was really interested with doing in this course was looking at 21st century skills and problem solving and connecting that to group work. So I've used a text-based learning analytics tool called Quantext, and through this I've been able to gather themes that the students are interested in and put them into really productive groups because they're researching stuff they're excited about. So I've been able to use it as a tool to open up communication, open up larger asynchronous dialogue as well, and then shape research agendas based on what the students really care about. One problem I've been working to address with learning analytics is the challenge of group work. So at university and in a lot of other settings, students are resistant to group work, particularly if they're put into a random group with people who may not necessarily be aiming for the same type of outcomes from their work. So what I did was I used a learning analytics tool called Quantext in a course that I coordinate, and I delivered a series of questions both in a live lecture environment and online. And in this way, over the space of a fortnight, I could gather a huge amount of student votes about the types of themes and ideas that were important to them. So for one of the questions, for example, getting about 600 votes from a course with about 140 students in it. So students were so passionate they were going in and upvoting and doing various things to get their ideas in there. Then what I could do was look at those themes that have been collected over time and then develop research themes based on that. So what did the students care about? I then put those into different research themes, and then the students were able to select what they were interested in investigating based on the themes they'd declared. I then got the students into groups around the themes that they were interested in. And so that's ended up working out to be a really productive way to do group work because the students are working with people who care about something that they also care about. So they're more likely to get deep learning outcomes from it. I think the types of benefits that my use of learning analytics offers for teachers and students are a couple of things. One is engagement. So we have a good sense of how the students are engaging, what resonates with them, and perhaps what kind of issues and themes we can continue towards investigating. I've found as an educator it's really rewarding because it helps you have an understanding of the sort of interests and expertise the students bring to the table. And so then you can work to learn together, which is really exciting and quite empowering for them as well. I guess one of the challenges for the widespread adoption of text analytics is that there isn't a lot of text analytics tools at the moment. So I was presenting at a conference in 2017 and talking about some of the ideas with my student group, and Jenny McDonald from University of Auckland came up to me and said, I'm trialling this tool called Quantext and I think it might be a good fit for what you're doing. I don't know of a lot of other text-based tools, but Quantext has been really useful, and I think that there's probably going to be more in development over time. A lot of people probably approach learning analytics thinking of it more as a quantitative tool, and so if we can use mixed methods approaches, we can get a deeper and broader sense, I guess, of what students might need to help with better learning outcomes. think there are a couple of challenges for the broader adoption of learning analytics in schools. One is time. I think a lot of educators feel time poor, and if it's seen that this is another thing to add on, then that can be quite hard. But my suggestion would be to look at what things you're doing already, that it might actually be really useful to have this tool that opens up more dialogue with your students, and then you're being efficient, but you're also getting deeper learning outcomes. That I would think is part of the goal of using learning analytics. The other thing may be money and awareness of the types of tools that are out there. And I guess my suggestion for educators in schools would be to connect to existing knowledge communities. So things like C3L or other groups that are out there. There's a really supportive community around learning analytics. So if you have some questions, just reach out and see. I certainly would be happy if people wanted to shoot me an email and had some questions. So. I think the advice that I'd offer for teachers and for those in K-12 who are thinking of using learning analytics would be just give it a go. Just start small, trial something and see what kind of feedback you get from the students as well. I found that I get really good results when the students have a sense of what my aims are with using the learning analytics, and I'm taking them through the technology that I'm using because they get kind of excited about it too. So bringing them along as part of that journey is a good way to go, and just find a small tool that you can just start with and get a better sense of your student cohort. Maybe also find a buddy, like in the way you'd have a study buddy, so someone else in your school who might like to trial this stuff, and then you can kick ideas around there and info share. I feel like learning analytics is still fairly early on in development. Like I know we're about a decade into learning analytics, of people being more broadly aware of it, the sort of work that people like George Siemens was doing around the turn of last decade. But I think it's still something that there's a perception that it's mainly sort of data scientists that are connecting with it, whereas actually there's a lot of stuff that educators are doing every day that now we can look at analytics and gain more of a sense of meaning from what's going on. Particularly if people are using a learning management system, there's ways that you can use those tools to look at student engagement. And with the pandemic, as we've moved into more online learning, there's lots of ways you can use these tools that are really helpful for student engagement. So I think there's a long way to go, but I think there's a lot of things that are emerging as opportunities. I think where I'd like to see learning analytics heading in the next 5 years would be more use of mixed methods, and that there would be some really easy to use applications for educators so that they can connect with things and gain a strong sense of their student cohort rapidly. I'm not sure if we are heading that way. I hope we're heading that way. The other thing I'd say is I'd like to see the development of learning analytics be more about connecting with the students. I know there's a lot of discussion of ethics and transparency, and I think then the students would also get a lot of value from what we're doing if they're clear about what we're doing with these tools.